Hey everybody, welcome back to Watch and Carry. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a pretty special project. My brother just got married this past November, and one of the gifts that I wanted to give him was a custom-made Casio watch. The parts at the time for this build that I wanted were not available, but luckily the part right here became available on eBay. So I was able to pick it up and got it in the mail this week. And so I thought I'd go ahead and film it for you. So I did give him a automatic watch, a Linvino Linkronos, but I also wanted him to have a unique type of Casio to kind of wear when he's a little bit more active and doesn't have to worry about scratching this one so much. But this is the final product that we're looking at, except for the negative display screen. From hearing him critique some of my other watches, he likes the looks, I think, of negative displays, but he's not as big a fan. He kind of likes the plain display. But we're going to be making this watch for him, which basically has this really nice GadgetWraps gunmetal silicone strap, the AE-1300-8V CF case here in gray, and then this really hard to find tripled subdialed masking off of a discontinued Casio AE-1300-1AV. Okay, so I think he's going to like this quite a bit. Very subtle colors here with the gray, but it really allows that yellow in the center to pop. So a few parts you're going to be needing for this build. This is the part that's hard to find. So whether or not you could find the masking separately or the whole watch, these are now discontinued by Casio, unfortunately. So you can still find some new old stock on eBay, very rarely on Amazon, but this one came in the mail from somebody selling their used watch. And because the guy never opened it, the masking inside, where those three yellow subdials are, is brand new. And that's the only part that I need. So you're going to be needing this part. Again, this is the AE-1300-1AV by Casio. You're going to be needing a 22 millimeter GadgetWraps silicone strap, and very, very comfortable to use, and of course relatively water resistant. So him being in New York, this will be perfect on those rainy days, or if he decides to go skiing. Okay. And 22 millimeters here, which we know is a little bit too big for this watch lug width, but we're going to cut it down to make it fit. It's called notching. And then you're going to need the gray case. And so this one is easily findable on Amazon. This is the Casio AE-1300-8AV. And comes with this resin strap, which is also pretty comfortable. But the gray case is what we're going to be using, and then we're going to be using the watch module off of this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to save this screen protector because I'm going to give this to him this weekend. He's going to happen to be local in California. And let's set our parts to the side here. Okay, so to get started, we're going to take some masking tape here, some blue tape, and I'm just going to put this over the face just to protect it as we work on our mat. We're going to remove this strap because I'm replacing it. So you'll take your spring bar tool, pry up on those spring bars, and we are going to need these spring bars because the ones that come with our aftermarket strap are a little bit too long there. So save these, and then the strap, we can set this off to the side, and he can just have another strap just in case he wants to go for black. Okay, now we have our case here. You have these 4 screws. Go ahead and remove those. Okay, there we go. Now from the factory, a lot of these Casio case backs will have this kind of like gummy residue that I'm assuming comes from the factory. So you can go ahead and take some alcohol on a cloth and wipe that off. So I will do that towards the end. So here's our case. And I'm going to set this off to the side because now I'm going to get the other one and get this open. I like to minimize how often I leave the watch module outside of the case because that gives more time for dust to get in. And then, of course, the more dust that gets in, the more we have to clean up. So I'm just going to leave that covered for now. We'll do the same thing here, but to the other one, so we can get that masking out. It's really a shame that they discontinued this particular Casio because those yellow subdials just go so well with the other cases, even the red cases, the blue. But like I said, you can still find them out there. Some countries, I think the UK tends to have a little bit better supply of that discontinued Casio, which is unusual because I know sometimes they have a hard time getting the stuff that we have a little bit easier access to in the US. But yeah, just create a search for it on eBay and hopefully one will pop up. Okay, so the masking is right here. So you're going to take something, you can just flip the case over actually, just tap that out. And then I will go ahead and cover up this case again and set this off to the side. So this is the masking and this is what we're going after here. Okay, we'll set this guy to the side. Then we will take our air blaster. Okay, I'm going to inspect the plastic housing. Sometimes you can get a fingerprint on here, especially if your hands are a little bit oily or sweaty. And so you want to wipe that off now before you replace it. So just take a cloth first if you have any fingerprints and wipe those smudges off. Try to hold the masking from the side. Okay, now once that's off, your cloth is probably going to leave a little bit of dust residue. So now you can take this air blaster and then just blast in one direction, the front and the back. And then carefully, without touching the face, set that guy to the side. Okay, now we have our watch module here. We're going to flip this over just to get our orientation. So the 6 o'clock is here, 12 o'clock is here. So we'll flip this back over. We will take, you can either use a toothpick or your spring bar tool here. You're going to look for the 6 o'clock notch or the 12 o'clock notch. That's the notch right there. Gently stick your tool in there and pry up. Okay, and what we're going to do here is remove this watch module, which is this part that's propped up. Take the masking out of this case, replace it with our other masking that we just cleaned, and then reassemble. Okay, so again, we want to move fairly quickly so we limit the amount of dust going in. So we'll lift up, careful not to touch the face. Gently lift up on this without scratching the inside of the glass. Take your clean, set it in this orientation so the 3 subdials are on the 12 o'clock position. Gently tap that down. Take your watch module again. If you see any dust, give it a quick blast of air. Reinsert that back in the correct orientation. Now when you reinsert this back, you're going to notice that it sits a little bit higher than the case, and that's because you have these 4 metal contacts here that need to be pushed inside. So you're going to go to each of those metal contacts and push it inside while applying a little bit of pressure with your other index finger. So push inside. Inside, you'll notice it starts to sit. There you go. And if we turn that back over, nice and flush right there. Okay. Also very important to get those contacts in the right position because otherwise your pushers, which are these 4 buttons on the side, will not work. Okay, that looks good. If this is an older watch, go ahead and take a look at the O-ring really quick. This is brand new from the factory and it's glistening here, so I already know that this is well oiled, so I'm not going to re-oil this. If this is dry, go ahead and take 100% silicone oil and gently, sparingly lube that up, and then you're going to look for this notch right here. Notice how there's this little bump here, but there's none over here. This is the 12 o'clock bump, and so that's going to go to our 12 o'clock position over here. And you can actually see on the watch there's a cutout for that little bump in the O-ring. So just line this guy up correctly. Now it's really important that you use 100% silicone oil. Some people might be tempted to use gun oil or mineral oil, sometimes even baby oil. The problem with those things is while they do lubricate, those oils tend to eat at plastic and rubber components. So silicone oil does not. So that's why you want to use that, because we obviously have rubber here and the rest of this watch is plastic. So you don't want to ruin that water resistance rating by using the incorrect type of oil. Go ahead and check the perimeter of the O-ring for any debris, okay, because that'll of course also compromise the water resistance integrity. We'll go ahead and take our case back. Now the watch is kind of sealed at this point, so I don't have to worry about dust getting in there. I'm going to go ahead and clean this gunk off the back. These also come fairly scratched from the factory. That's just the nature of the way it is. So it's a $19 Casio watch, so you kind of get what you pay for. The rest of the watch is really good, but that's one of the flaws there. So a little bit of alcohol here to the back. Those of you that are a little bit better working with metals can probably recommend in the comments below a better way to really polish that out. But that's all I'm going to do is just clean out that gum that was there from the factory. So a few scratches here, but you know, that's the best we can do. It looks better than it was before. Okay, so you'll notice that I'm reading the Casio case back in this orientation. We're going to rotate it this way, and that's the correct way to put it back onto the watch. Okay, go ahead and line up the cutouts in the case back with the screw holes down beneath. You're going to take your screws, and I like to put them loosely in before screwing everything down. Okay, I'm not fully tightening these screws. I'm keeping it a little bit loose. Put a little bit of pressure with your other finger in the center of the case back. Okay, once they're kind of screwed down, go ahead and check between the seam between the case back and the case, and you should not be seeing any of the O-ring. If you do, you have to reopen that case back and reposition it, because that will allow water to get in there. Okay, don't over tighten these. The screw holes in the case, in the resin case, are not, you know, metal, so you can easily strip those. So anyways, that's our assembly of the watch there. Let's just briefly take a look at how that watch looks. Okay, go ahead and play with the functions right now. So changing the mode is on the bottom left. Starting here on the bottom right to activate the stopwatch. Stop it, clear it with the top left, and we'll check that backlight. Backlight is still working well. There we go. Okay, we'll set the date and time for his location a little bit later, but yeah, it looks a lot better, I think, than having that one on the front. A little less boring, a little more color, but not too much. So we'll recover this. This is painter's tape, by the way. I like to use that because it doesn't leave any residue behind. Okay, so now we have to fit the strap. So from the factory, we were given this strap here. Now the strap comes with 18mm spring bars, which is at this end of the strap, which means that the lug width here, these are called the lugs, by the way. Lug. The width between these two is called the lug width, and for this watch it's 18mm. Now the strap we're using is 22mm, so you can see it's quite a bit thicker. So you can order this strap in 18mm if you want. The reason why I went for 22 is just because the watch case itself is quite beefy. It's a relatively thick case, and if I was to put a really thin strap on here, I just don't think it would look as good. I think the transition going from this really large case and really large width over here down to an 18mm strap, the transition is just too drastic. It's not very smooth. It works well with this factory strap because even though these are 18mm, it flares out over here to kind of fill in that gap. So that way you have the smooth line transitioning here. But if you take away those flared edges and you're just sticking with 18, like let's give you an example here of an 18mm strap. There we go. If I also put this 18mm strap here, you have this huge gap here and you ruin that nice line, that curve that happens here. And it just does not look, you know, I think as good. It really takes away from the watch, in my opinion at least. But if you don't want any hassle, you just want a strap that's easy to go, you can certainly get this in 18mm. So because we're going to have to trim this down, if this is 22 and this is 18, we need to take away 4mm total. So that's 2mm from here and 2mm from here. Now you always want to cut less and you know, work your way down more if you need to. So cut a little bit, size it, cut a little bit, and then size it again. The worst thing you can do is cut too much, and then you've kind of ruined the strap. Okay, so to do that, we need to actually take out the spring bars here. So to do this, you can simply lift up with your lug tool like this, and then kind of work it over that little quick release tab on the spring bar. Okay, so we'll pop that guy out. And we'll do that for the same here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go to my ruler here at the bottom. Let's change camera angles here. Okay, we're working with a millimeter ruler over here. I'm going to mark with Sharpie where I need to cut. So again, we're removing 2mm. 2mm and 2mm. Now, because silicone is relatively flexible compared to leather, I'm just going to remove 1mm and see if I can squeeze the remainder. I'm going to cut 1mm from each side and see if I can squeeze that in to fit into my watch case without having to remove an additional millimeter. I'm just doing that because if it looks good enough and fits in there, that's all I really care about. And that way I don't have to run the risk of cutting it too short. If you cut it too short, you're going to have a gap between the strap and the lugs, and it's just not going to look good. It's going to look very, very obvious on this watch. Okay, so I'm just going to take 1mm, and if we need to take more, we can take more. So 1mm would be right about there. And I'm on the back side of the watch, of the strap right now, not the front, so on the back. Okay, and then repeat for the other side as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and get our hobby knife here. Now, the way I like to cut this is take a brand new blade, of course. You want it to be sharp. And what you want to do is cut perpendicular. Perpendicular in this direction, perpendicular in this direction. So I like to hold the strap directly to my face like this. And I'm going to run the blade on top of my Sharpie mark and cut just enough down to where the sharp end of this blade covers the bottom of that hole right there. That's my kind of gauge to know when to stop. So put this there, and we will hold my left arm fixed. Just be very careful here. Silicone cuts relatively easily, of course, with hobby knife. Okay, so right there, my blade is kind of met the inside of that hole. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so you see the hole? Blade goes all the way down, and then I'm going to switch. Again, perpendicular, I'm going to go to the bottom of that hole, put my blade there, and then this time cut downward. You might want to lower your grip with your other hand so you don't cut on your fingers. Okay. Cut nice and slow. Run it the full length of the blade. Come from the top again. There we go. So you got one part there cut. Okay, then we're going to repeat the same for the other one. Go to that Sharpie mark here on the top. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and repeat for the other one as well. So again, back of the watch strap, just 1 millimeter. Okay, just kind of like that. Okay, so now we've pretty much finished our modifications. Kind of clean up my work area here. And let's take all the parts you're going to need to reassemble. So we have our watch straps here that have been notched. So notched is the term you use when you're trying to cut down a strap. We've got our 18 millimeter spring bars, and we've got our watch over here. So this is the 12 o'clock position. This is the 6. The long part always goes to the 6. So we'll flip this over. Insert our spring bars. Okay, if it's a little bit hard to push through the silicone, you can take your lug tool and put it like that. You just want to be able to see those spring ends on the spring bar visible at both ends. You'll kind of insert one end into one of the lugs first, so the spring bar sits in the hole. Then take your tool and push inward on the other spring bar while simultaneously pushing down with your other thumb, kind of like that. Then you'll take your tool and just, sometimes the spring bar won't sit all the way in the hole, so just push outward with the lug tool to kind of make sure that it's in there, and then give it a light tug. And that's one end to go. All right, so now we'll flip this guy over as well. Insert our spring bar here. Insert it into one end, like so. Take our tool, pry downward. Give it a small tug. And there we go. Now we got our strap on and now it fits. Okay, and let's take off the tape and take a look at our work. All right, so there we go. Our own custom-made Casio here. So let's take a look at what we did here. So we changed out the masking. So you can see here that that pop of yellow, especially the yellow here on the countdown timer, I think just goes very, very well with the almost matte gray finish of the case. And then the strap itself has this really nice subtle gray. It's a tad bit lighter than the gray of the case, but gives enough contrast that I still think looks really, really good. And so this is why we went for 22 millimeters. You can see here that this line, this transition line, this sweeping angle kind of is maintained a little bit more by having that wider strap. The wider strap kind of fills in that missing piece here of the lug. So I really kind of like that. Okay, we'll throw this on the wrist and give you guys a wrist shot. And very, very comfortable strap, very easy to put on. Sometimes I even forget that I'm using mine, and I'll even use this, if I go swimming, if I use this at the gym and it's kind of got some sweat and moisture on it, I'll take it in the shower with me so that I can clean it off, and it's always done a good job there. The strap dries off really quick, and of course the watch is relatively water resistant. So let's give you guys a wrist shot here. It's nice that the buckle here is also a matte gray finish to kind of match the case. All right, and here's how it compares to my own similar Casio, but with a negative display. So you can kind of choose which one you want. If you don't know how to make a negative display, please watch one of my other videos. Look at the thumbnail for the video. If the thumbnail shows a blacked out screen, chances are I explain to you how to make a negative display in that video. Okay, so it kind of looks like that. So you can see the one on the left is obviously a little bit easier to read. You get a little bit more pop, I guess, in the numerals with the negative display case. So it's kind of your personal preference. I'm using 0-degree linear polarizing film, by the way, for this model on the right. All right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. I'm going to get this all packaged up for my brother and give that to him. This is the other watch I'm giving him, by the way. And I'm also going to be giving him this watch pouch that I bought off Amazon. So you can roll this up and you can put this into a plastic hard case, so that way you protect the face of the watch with the leather material, and then you protect the components with this hard roll-up case. You can toss it in your suitcase. You don't have to worry about your suitcase being thrown around. Okay, and so this has a protective film on it at the moment, but this is a Lanvino Le Chronos automatic hand winding watch. Really beautiful automotive design. So I actually bought this watch brand new for myself maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago. I really only used it once or twice. It's pretty much been sitting brand new in my case. And I ordered the same one for my brother, but unfortunately, due to COVID, they ran out of stock of this one. They only have it now available in the silver case, which I don't think is as nice. And this is the case my brother likes. He saw this on my wrist and he really wanted one. So I thought I'd go ahead and give him mine, since mine is pretty much brand new. You can see the I don't use these metal straps, and the strap even has the plastic still on it. So I'm going to be sending this out to him. So we'll put this like this, and then we'll take his watch that we just made. And so now he's got a casual watch on the left and a fancy watch on the right. kind of invert like this, fold it up, put a few watch tools in there and a leather strap, an extra leather strap for his automatic watch in case he wants to dress it down a bit. And then this is how this works. You kind of put this in here like that. And this goes like this, and then you close it up. Very similar to the Dan Henry cases that you get with your watches. This is just a no brand one. So really cool. And it sits there. And you can see the size there compared to the ruler, relatively small, a little bit larger than 6 or just about 6 inches. So very compact also for traveling. All right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Relatively quick and simple. Again, the hardest part is going to be finding this discontinued triple yellow subdial, but if you can, very easy mod to do. Any comments or questions, please put them down in the comments below. And as always, have fun, and we'll see you guys on the next one.